One of the questions that I'm asked the most by students is, how do you get your own voice on the guitar? How do you get to sound like nobody else in the world? I've thought a lot about this over the course of my career, and I've compiled a list of things I think that might help you achieve this for yourself. So what is having your own voice on the guitar? I'm sure you've noticed that the best players of all time have their own unique sound, and you can tell it's them with just a couple of notes. Listen to a David Gilmour guitar solo. 3 seconds in, you know it's David Gilmour. Probably list 1,000 guitar players that have their own voice, their own unique sound. So let's start off with the obvious. We probably don't want to sound like other guitar players. A lot of times when I'm teaching lessons, a parent will come in and say, my kid can play Stevie Ray Vaughan note for note. And I'm like, well, that's cool, but that's not really getting his own sound. That's not the ultimate goal. You don't want to sound like somebody else. The first step is to learn as much as you can. Be a sponge. You can learn from YouTube guitar lesson channels. You can learn from your guitar teacher. You can learn from books, from magazines, from other media. That way you have a giant sample size from which to draw your own personality from. Along with learning as much as you can, you should listen to as much music as possible as well. And don't be too genre specific. Keep an open mind. Listen to music that was here before you were even born. Listen to music that influenced the players that you listen to. Try some different genres, try some different things. The more you listen to, the more you're going to have inspiration to draw from to start to create your own sound. The next thing is probably to figure out what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. Sometimes it's hard to admit weakness, but there's certain things you may not be able to do that well. Like David Gilmour, for example, apparently tried to play really fast one night after watching Eddie Van Halen play and realized that he just didn't have that in his toolkit. So he stopped trying to do that. It wasn't him. So you may have some certain strengths. Maybe you have great physical prowess in the instrument and you're really great at sweep picking, or you can play really, really fast, or maybe you have sort of a knack for playing a swing kind of feel, or maybe you have a knack for playing the blues. Pay attention to what your strengths and your weaknesses are. It's okay to have weaknesses. You can't do everything with the instrument. That'll help you to start to figure out who you are. I think it's important to try to emphasize your strengths once you kind of figure out what those are. I'm not saying to never work on the things that are your weaknesses. You should do that too. But try to focus on the things that you're good at, and you can cultivate those. That will help to lead you in a direction, and it'll make you a better player. You probably want to work on the things that excite you. Maybe that's playing heavy metal guitar. You're really excited when you have a lot of distortion. Maybe it's playing jazz guitar. Maybe it's something like that where you didn't grow up with it necessarily. For me, when I went to college for guitar, I realized I really liked jazz guitar. I had never done that when I was a kid, never really listened to it, wasn't exposed to it that much. And it became a big part of who I am now. So you can incorporate things that come later in life, and they can become part of your thing. But try to lean towards the things that are really exciting to you. Work on your weaknesses too, and work on the things that aren't necessarily super exciting to you, but really kind of hone in on the things that excite you to find your own voice. If you're enjoying today's video on how to develop your own voice on the guitar, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell for notifications. And in the comment section down below, you'll find links to my websites and other guitar resources. One of the hardest things to do is to start to make cuts in your playing. You can't do everything in life. You can't be a professional tennis player, a world-class chef, and an astronaut in the same lifetime. I don't think that's possible. Same thing applies to guitar. You can't do everything. So maybe you decide you're going to play a 6-string guitar and you're not going to play 7-string, 8-string guitar as your thing. Maybe you're not going to use a whammy bar. That's something you just decided it's not part of your thing. It's okay to start to limit what you're doing so you can find a more focused way to be yourself. You can't be everything and do everything as well as you can do a few things really well. So you need to start to make those decisions in your playing. Not to say that you can't dabble with those things. Like for me, I'm not the greatest finger tapper. I've never really been that good at it. I kind of never really wanted to do that as my full-time thing. So I can do it kind of well. I can show people how to do it, but I'm not like super good at it, if that makes sense. Conversely to what I just said about making cuts, if you're going to do this as your profession, it's really important to cultivate a myriad of skills, especially if you play in a wedding band or do something like that. You have to be able to play in a bunch of different genres, to be a competent blues player, jazz player, rock player, probably maybe even a bluegrass player, a country player, a classical player. It's going to help you get paid in the future. So I'm not saying to not keep practicing all of these different disciplines and to be excited in doing that and to grow along those lines too. But in developing your own voice, you're definitely going to start to figure out what it is that excites you and kind of hyper focus on those areas. One really important aspect of developing your own voice is to start to record yourself all the time. You have to listen to yourself play and to be critical to your development and figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And being a little bit critical of your own playing is not a bad thing. It'll help you grow. Making an album is a great way to develop your own voice. If you produce a record or a bunch of records, you're really going to figure out who you are. It's like that police sketch where you can't tell who the person is at the very beginning of the movie, but then as the picture becomes more clear, you can tell who the perpetrator is. You'll figure out who you are. It's like looking in a mirror. When you develop your own music and you try to write and record your own music, you'll really start to figure out what direction that you are kind of naturally leading towards going. I would be remiss if I didn't mention gear. Gear has a big part in developing your own voice. Not as much as the playing aspect, but for sure, the types of pedals that you gravitate towards, the types of effects, what amps you decide to play out of, which types of guitars you decide to use. All of those things will start to develop your own voice as you figure out what works best for the sounds that you're trying to make. Your own guitar voice can be a multi-genre type thing. Maybe you're a player who does a lot of different things pretty well and you sort of melt those together into one style. In my situation, my playing sounds like blues, but it also sounds like jazz and sounds like rock and maybe classical. So I'm kind of putting some different styles and blending them all together. So that's what I like, and I've gravitated towards those. I've never been able to decide that this one style is best for me. I sort of like a bunch of different things, but not the whole spectrum, but enough that I can create a style that's multiple different genres put together at the same time. Maybe the most important thing of all is to do what you feel passionate about. The passion is going to help you continue to keep practicing, to keep growing, to keep learning new things, to keep writing music and recording music and producing music and performing and going through all those grueling days of long gigs and long practice sessions and all the other things that go along with it. Passion's a big part of this. So if it makes you feel passionate, don't be afraid to spend time doing that when it comes to your playing. There's plenty of time for you to work on things to improve across the board with your abilities and your skill set, but passion is really important because that's probably your truest voice of the things that you feel the most passion for. Last, but certainly not least, is to keep improving and moving forward. Even if you have your own voice, you need to keep learning and growing to improve that voice. You know you have your own voice if you're playing and you're bored with your playing because you're tired of sounding like yourself. That's funny, but that's true. You keep trying to improve upon yourself to get out of your own way and to grow into something else, but all that happens is you just become a bigger version of yourself, a more advanced version of yourself, a more versatile version of yourself, but you still kind of have the same core sound because you spent all of this time going through all these steps that I mentioned to cultivate this voice that you can't get away from if you wanted to. And it's not a bad thing because ultimately we want to be our own people. There's a lot of great players out there and it's awesome to learn from them and it's awesome to be influenced by people and to have a list of people that you kind of sound like. You can say, well, that's my Eric Johnson moment, that's my Steve Morse moment, that's my Van Halen moment. But ultimately you're trying to be your own guitar player because this is all about your voice. You want to be your own guitar player. And we're working towards that. Your whole entire career is based on that. Being an artist is about having your own sound, whether that's your playing or your writing. So if you follow these steps and think about some of these things I've been talking about, this might help you get there faster and maybe a quicker and easier route to becoming a guitar artist and having your own voice on the instrument.